Alright, so this is our 3:30 live show. We do these every day at 3:30. And today we have a snake feeding. We feed our snakes here every other Saturday. So once every 2 weeks. They really don't need food that often, especially since we're feeding them pretty big meals, considering the size of them. But this is one of our more popular shows. And we have a pretty big live audience today. One thing you'll notice about Rusty's tank here, he's going to be the first I'm feeding, is we have newspapers down. Now that is mainly because when we prepare their food, we soak them in water. We buy them frozen. So we soak them in warm water throughout the day, and then right before this, I put them in the microwave. And so they're still a little wet, which means they'll stick to the bedding. We don't want Rusty eating any of his bedding while he's eating his food. That's a precaution for that. It also just reminds the animals that it is time to, eat. Rusty is obviously very ready for his food.
Rusty's ready.
And does anyone have any questions before we start? A lot of people ask why we feed dead rats, partly because, no one really wants to see a mouse get killed. Second of all, think if you're a rat put in Rusty's tank, you're going to quickly figure out that that tank has 4 walls. So you're going to do whatever you can to stay alive, and your next resort is going to be to fight back. Rat bites can be pretty nasty, so we don't want to put our snakes in any danger while we're feeding them. Without further ado, if you're squeamish, this might be the part where you want to look away. Otherwise, this is a bowl of dead rats and mice. So Rusty's going to be getting our second largest rat today. That's the camera a bit.
Did you see it, Rusty?
And then we'll start off. Rusty's one of our more vigorous eaters. Never skipped a feeding. So I'm going to try and get him on his paper a little bit more.
Do you see him move?
I don't want him to come back after he strikes.
A lot of times you'll see him, they'll grab it and they'll pull it backwards, and so she's trying to coax him a little bit further onto the paper there, so when she hits it, he actually stays on the paper.
He's waiting for me to come to him, and I don't necessarily want to do that.
Okay, get down, go.
Lucas, come back.
He is interested, though. He's gonna eat it. It's just a matter of how quick you can get him to come over and take it.
Oh, did you see that?
Oh my goodness.
Did you see that, Presley?
Mom, I don't see it.
And so, while we're watching him, you'll notice he coiled around it. All of our snakes here are constrictors, so that means they squeeze their food to death. Now, a lot of people seem to think that's to cut off the rat's airways. That's actually to cut off blood flow, which is a much more effective way of killing them. It's much faster. I also mentioned that we warm them up in the microwave. That's also that when he grabs onto it, he's going to wait for a little bit to make sure it cools down, so he knows it's dead. So he'll wait there for us while we go to other snakes, and he's a fun one to watch as we're going around.
Great.
Cool. So we'll move on to Sally, our hognose.
I'm going to stay back here.
Again, folks, keep an eye on the tables as we're moving around here.
No, don't step on the tables.
Now this is one tank that's pretty small, so it's going to be a little hard to fit everyone in here. But we'll want to make sure the live stream's got a view there. So there you go.
Now turn some up.
Okay. So Sally is our western hognose snake. These guys are native to Minnesota. Now this isn't something I typically do, but since this is a very little snake, I'm just going to make sure he's on his paper. So I'm going to quickly just put him over there. He's not one where I'm worried about picking him up while he's feeding. Rusty, on the other hand, I want to be very cautious about that. So he's going to be getting our smallest mouse today. Sally is a little slow. He's getting up there in years. They are one of the only snakes that tends to chew their food a little bit. They do have little molars basically in the back of their mouth. So you'll see him trying there. He does have cataracts in both eyes, but he can definitely smell it. Almost there. So he's one that will very commonly get it around the side. Again, I don't necessarily want to do that, but I don't want him on his bedding either. So he got it around the side there. So now he's going to work his way either around to most likely the head of that mouse and eat it from there because they do swallow it whole. In the wild, his prey items would be something like toads and snails very often, but those are a hard thing to get a hold of, and we'll make sure the live stream can see, so we'll just clear space right there. Okay. So he's going to work on that while we move on to Sophie.
When she was showing, you can go.
Sophie is a corn snake. These guys are very common pet snakes. And Sophie's one of our eaters too, where she'll skip every once in a while, but it's not very often. She's a little high up there, she kind of fell down, but... Now she got it around from the back. That does make it a little bit harder just because getting around the hips from that angle and the shoulders is a little bit more difficult. But she'll work on it. She knows it's there.
She gets a pretty small mouse for how big of a snake she is too, so she might be one who can actually swallow it from the rear end. If it's a bigger mouse proportional to how big the snake is, you'll see it kind of happen to go around and go the other way with it.
Now, a common thing I hear with these guys is that they detach their bottom jaw. That is kind of true. It's basically constructed of a whole bunch of very elasticized tendons. So their jaw is made up of a whole bunch of different moving parts. So it can become wider on both the X and the Y axis. So obviously we usually know that they can open their mouths pretty wide. But they can also open it along the X axis and split their bottom jaw into two and make it wider. So, and then we'll move on to Jamie.
Yeah, she tends to be pretty big. And as we're looping around here, we can keep checking on Rusty too over there. He's probably still working on his.
Okay, and then we'll make room for the cart here, so it'll probably slip in there.
But he is doing a little bit.
Okay, this is Jeannie. She's our ball python. I believe our oldest snake. She's getting into her very late 20s, almost 30. And she is mostly blind. So again, not something I'd very commonly want to do, but since she's a very calm snake, I don't feel, scared to move around to a paper like that. Now she's one where I don't think I've ever seen her strike at her food. See how she's kind of coiling away from it, hence the name ball python. She kind of went to a ball there. She's the one that will very commonly not take her food, and that's common with her species too. They've gone notoriously long amounts of time without eating. So she will either take it in the night or leave it there for us to pick up in the morning. Either way, it's her decision, but they can go very long time without eating. I think the record's been like up to a year, so. And they'll be fine, so. And then we'll move on.
Well documented going with year plus without eating. I've heard tale of like 2+ years.
Right after that little play, she's kind of pushing over. She's a fat.
So it's not, like Ridley was saying, it's not atypical for her to skip multiple meals in a row year or more often every 2 weeks. She'll sometimes go a couple months at a time without eating, just as a normal part of her feeding rotation, basically.
And then we will move on to Artemis. And we'll make room for the cart. It tends to be a difficult tank. You want to put that. So we'll try and make room for a cart, so make a little gap. Guys, get on the floor. Guys, I know I'm in the video. Artemis is our largest snake here. She's a ball python, not a ball python. She is a red-tailed boa constrictor. She's the same species as Rusty, who we've already seen. But you'll notice she is much larger. They're actually around the same length. They are around the same age, within like a year. But you'll notice she is a lot thicker. That is because she's female. Naturally, females tend to be larger because the larger the female, the more eggs it can carry. So, she's going to be getting our largest rat. And she's one where I'll commonly see her skip to or take it in the night. So you'll see her coming away from it there. So we'll leave it in there for her. If she decides to take it, great. If not, that's fine. She knows it's there though, so we'll probably head back to Rusty if he's not already done.
Move around.
Oh, and he's already done. Oh, no.
Honey, you gotta back. Just come back. Step back
Oh,
a little bit, honey. So others can see too.
Dropped it, yeah. You want me to pick it up or?
Here, why don't we,
What do you want to do?
starting.
Oh,
Going for it again?
yep. All right. So Rusty tends to be a cool one to watch because as you see the side of his jaw there, you don't get to see the skin under the scales a lot. That's a really cool thing to see. Every once in a while, if you get a good view of his mouth, you'll see a little tube pop out of his mouth. Now that is his trachea, or essentially his windpipe, because obviously you're swallowing an animal like that, you've got to take some breaths in between. So he'll actually take his trachea or windpipe out of his mouth to take a breath.
Yeah, he's also good because you can see, and Ridley talked about this earlier, how the jaw stretches not only up and down, but out to the side. So you'll see
Look at that.
he can move either side of his lower jaw there independently, and you'll see him working one side and working the other as he starts swallowing it.
Look at him, honey. He's working. Okay.
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 Not sure if I can finish up my slides.
Go ahead.
Now can you see? All the way down or just like...
I can't see it now.
You want to go kneel up there so
wanna go
it's next to
close?
the side?
You're in the way. Can you come here too?
You can go up there.
Here,
Go in front of
take a
your
look around there. Right by that little girl, you can get a good look at it, right there.
You want to just outro us
Yeah.
here, Ridley? Cool.
Okay, this is our 3:30 live show. Again, we do these every day at 3:30. If you want to tune in on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, we do this every day. Tomorrow it's gonna be
Tomorrow should be Spencer doing something.
okay, but it's something different every day. So tune in again. Thanks.